Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk you through a posture called Parivritta Parsvakonasana or Parsvakonasana B. It's a posture from the standing sequence of Ashtanga Yoga. So we learned this posture quite early on in our Ashtanga Yoga journey, but I always found it so challenging, one of the most challenging postures, and really couldn't find my breath in this pose for the longest time. But I have a set of progressions towards the full version of the pose, which my students find really beneficial, and one of them probably you might not have seen before. So today I'm going to talk you through the progressions. I'll talk you through the fundamentals of twisting and how to really get the most out of this posture. If you've been practicing it for a while, I'll also at the end show you how you can challenge yourself a bit more in the pose. Is it just me, or is this posture really hard? Let me know in the comments below if you find this hard as well. But this twist is, in its fullest version, is really, really quite challenging for most people. But the progressions are going to be quite approachable and accessible. So let me talk you through progression number 1. So let's do the right side first. So you would have just finished Parsvakonasana. So you would finish in this position. And then as you exhale, you would turn to the back. And this is my modification number 1 that I would teach to beginners. So turn to the back and drop your left knee to the floor. Now already what you might be tempted to do, hopefully you can see my lower back here, is this. But in the Parsvakonasana B, I want you to think of actually keeping your tailbone heavy. So imagine that you have a weight on your sacrum, on your bone here, the tailbone, and it's just pulling your tailbone under. And try to maintain that throughout the pose. So don't go into a back bend, keep it dropped down. And then what we're going to do is inhale, reach the left arm up, create length in the side of the body, and as you exhale, twist. Bring your elbow outside of your thigh, and if you can, palms together in prayer. Now, try not to let this thigh roll in. This is true of all of the different variations of this pose. You want to keep the outer hip muscles firing up and push the leg out to the side against your elbow. Turn your head to the back and try to think of drawing your chest up and around, keeping the tailbone heavy. You could do 5 breaths here. Okay, now modification number 2. If you start to feel steady in this posture, but you want a little bit more of a challenge and you want to progress to the next stage, you could come into the same posture, tuck your back toes, keep the tailbone dropped, and then lift your back knee off the mat, straighten the leg, and start to reach the heel back behind you. So you're feeling a stretch in the back of that left calf, still pressing the leg to the side. Okay, once you've done your 5 breaths, drop the knee to the floor, release the elbows, inhale with control, come up, exhale, other side. So we're going to inhale, reach up, stretching into the side of the body, and this creates the space that you then need to twist across. And you could see that I'm using my left hand here to hold that knee in position and create some leverage to bring my elbow outside of the thigh, pressing this knee into the elbow, looking back. And if you feel open in the chest and you want a little more, lift the back knee, reach out through the back heel. Taking 5 breaths, and then drop the knee down. With control, you would inhale back up, Samastitihi. So these 2 options should be enough to keep you entertained for a good few weeks or even months of your Ashtanga Yoga journey. And you're accessing so many of the benefits of this pose. So you've got the twist, which is helping to stretch and open the upper back. You're getting a little bit of strength in the legs and the outer hips by pushing the knee out to the side. And then if you're lifting the back knee, you're also strengthening that back leg too. So lots of stuff going on and lots of benefit to be had just from those 2 versions. Now, if you did feel like you're ready to go a bit further, then let's move on to my additional progression, which is something that I learned from Eileen Gautier, who I studied in Tri Yoga in Camden. So this is her modification that I really like, so I stole it for my teaching as well. So let's say we've just finished Parsvakonasana A, and then we exhale, turn to the back. And I'm going to show you how to come into it from kneeling to begin with, so with the back knee down, and then I'll show you coming in from standing. So we need to get a little bit further across this time. So what I want you to do is take your right hand on your thigh, inhale, reach up, and then exhale, push that thigh inwards and try to get your shoulder outside of the knee. So it's not elbow outside of the knee anymore, it's shoulder. So you have to drop down a bit further. Can you see that in the first option my chest was high, and in the second option I actually bring my belly down towards my thigh, and the reason is because we're going to reach that hand to the floor. Okay, if that feels too much, don't worry, go back to the other version, work on your twist. Otherwise, really use that leverage of the hand to wriggle the shoulder outside of the knee. Hand on the floor, and then lift your back knee up and reach the top hand all the way up to the ceiling. Here again, the tailbone is heavy, and we're thinking of pulling the chest around, strong in the legs, and gaze up to the top hand. Make sure you're pushing the thigh, the knee out into the arm, so you're keeping that outer hip engagement. And then inhale, come back up. Exhale, other side, and we're coming in from kneeling again. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, use that hand, wriggle the shoulder outside of the knee. So you can see I have a few goes. I don't just go and then stop there. I really am working my shoulder outside of the knee. Once you have a good grip, I'm just going to use my fingertips here because I've got a bit of a sore wrist, so I'm just going to place my fingertips down, but ideally hand flat on the floor, and then lift the back knee, look up to the top hand. Keep the thigh pressing into the arm, chest reaching around. 5 breaths, and then inhale back up. Samastitihi. The next progression is going to feel like a totally different posture. Okay, let me try and show you what the next version would be. Again, just finished Parsvakonasana A. We're going to turn to the back, and now we're going to set up the feet in a different position. So as if you were doing Virabhadrasana A, Warrior 1. You're going to ground the back heel, and with the toes at an angle out to the side. So this back hip is now open. Before we had the hips facing forwards with the heel off the ground. Now we're going to open that back hip and ground the back foot. And you can see how much harder this is going to be because you've automatically got further to twist because of that back hip being open. So this is why it's more challenging. And we're going to do exactly the same. Tailbone heavy. Work the shoulder outside of the knee. Hand to the floor. Twist the chest. And you can come into this version again. Now, the way you know when you feel ready to move on to the full version, which is like this, with taking the top arm over, is really, it's subtle. It's just when you feel like your chest is facing to the side, or when you feel like you can always have a go, and if you feel like when you do it, you just collapse, then you won't get the benefit from the twist. So regress back to the arms straight version if you feel like you're collapsing in the full version. If you feel like you can stay open, then let's give it a go. So drawing that right hip back, pressing the thigh out to the side, arm over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then inhale, back up, and let's do the other side. This time I'm going to show you how you can come into it from kneeling. So before we grounded the back foot to begin with, and came into the full pose. This time you could work through all of the progressions just to see if you can get a little bit deeper in the pose. So reach up, exhale across, hand to the floor, lift the back knee. Now here is where you would have to ground the back foot. Either reach up or take your hand over. And again, I'm trying to keep this knee bent as I press the knee into my arm. Keep the outer hip active. Keep the chest turning round, and the drishti is up to the fingertips. Inhale back up and exhale to the front. So I hope you can see how those progressions work. That the main focus of the posture is the twist. And then as the twist has started to take its form, we start to add in harder and harder elements to make it harder to maintain the twist. So first, the twist is relatively easy. We can maintain the twist here. We make it harder by adding the strength element and the balance. We make it harder by asking us to open the arms. And then we make it even harder by opening the back hip. Finally, we make it even harder by taking the top arm over. So really, the goal is not to get to the end stage of the pose. These options and modifications and progressions are just here for us to explore at our own pace. So enjoy whichever stage of the journey you're at now. And remember, in all postures, but especially in the twists, and especially in the postures where we find it challenging, the breath is the most important part of the pose. So it can be really tempting when you're in the full version, you know, loads going on and we're feeling a bit stressed, to stop breathing, because it's quite hard to allow the breath to flow freely because we are twisted and in such a strange position. So try to make the breath your priority in the posture, whichever version you're doing, and you'll find that everything starts to slot into place a lot more quickly and a lot more easily. Remember, it doesn't matter if your breath is quicker than it should be. The main thing is just to try and slow it down. Don't hold the breath just to stick to somebody's count. Instead, let the breath flow freely and gradually over time make it slower and steadier. Okay, you guys, I hope these tips have been helpful. If you have any questions at all, you know what to do. Just leave them in the box below. If you enjoyed my video and found it useful, then give it a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel and click the bell, and you get a notification whenever I post something new. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Happy practicing, and I'll see you soon.